A man can survive a crushed chest, broken bones, and a week hovering between life and death. But what almost finished me was hearing my own children say I meant nothing to them. And the day they rushed in to collect what they thought was theirs, they found my bed empty. Hello, buddies, my name is Walter Hayes. I'm 71 years old. I spent 4 decades building a logistics business from a borrowed pickup truck into something that employed hundreds of people across Ohio. I buried my wife 12 years ago, raised 2 children on my own after that, and until recently, I believed sacrifice was always repaid with love. I was wrong. When my eyes first opened, pain slammed into my chest like a sledgehammer. Sharp, crushing. Every breath felt borrowed. The ceiling above me was white and cracked, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry insects. The smell hit next, antiseptic, cold and unforgiving. Hospital. I tried to move and instantly regretted it. My arm burned where tubes were taped in place. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. A monitor beeped beside me, steady and merciless, counting out seconds I wasn't sure I deserved. And even then, with death still close enough to whisper, my first thought wasn't fear. It was my kids. Eric and Melissa, not anger. Not blame, just them. That's the truth nobody likes to admit. A parent's heart doesn't shut off just because it's been crushed. You can bleed internally and still worry about whether your children ate, whether they're okay, whether you somehow failed them. I turned my head slowly. A small room, white walls, metal rails, a bedside table with my wallet, my watch, and my glasses. One lens was cracked clean through like a spider web. My stomach tightened. That's when the memory came back in pieces. Headlights, a horn, metal screaming. The world spinning sideways, then darkness. I fumbled for the call button with shaking fingers. The door opened and a man in a white coat stepped in. Gray hair. Kind eyes that had seen too many endings. Dr. Miller, his badge read. "Well, Mr. Hayes," he said gently, checking the monitor. "You're awake, that's a good sign." "Feels like I lost a fight with a semi," I croaked, my throat dry as sand. He gave a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You were in a bad accident, lost a lot of blood. You were very close, close." That word settled heavy in my chest. I swallowed. "My kids," I said. "They're here, right?" The smile disappeared. He didn't answer right away. If you've ever felt that pause before bad news, you know exactly what it feels like. Like the air thickens. Like your body knows before your mind does. "We contacted them," he said carefully. I tried to sit up, pain flaring. And, another pause, my heart started pounding harder than the monitor could track. "Doc," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Where are my children?" Before we go any further, I want you to pause for just a second. If you've ever sacrificed everything for family and wondered if it mattered, let me know in the comments. Sometimes knowing you're not alone is the only thing that keeps a person breathing. Dr. Miller pulled a chair closer, his movements slow, deliberate. That's when I knew whatever he was about to say was going to change everything. And I wasn't ready for it. Dr. Miller sat down beside the bed, the chair creaking under his weight. He didn't rush. Doctors never rush when the truth is ugly. Outside the small window, rain tapped softly against the glass, like it was trying not to interrupt what was coming. "I need you to stay calm, Mr. Hayes," he said. "Don't tell me that," I replied. My fingers dug into the stiff hospital sheets. "Just tell me where my kids are." He exhaled through his nose, slow and heavy. "After the accident, you needed blood immediately. Your type is rare, we didn't have enough on hand." My stomach tightened. "So you called them?" "Yes," he said. "Your son first." I nodded, already picturing Eric storming in, annoyed but present. That's who he was. Not soft, but he showed up. At least I thought he did. "I told him the situation was critical," the doctor continued. I explained that you might not survive the night. The monitor beeped steadily, each sound landing like a hammer. And, I whispered, Dr. Miller's eyes finally met mine. They were apologetic, almost ashamed. He said, "That's not my problem." The words didn't register at first. They floated there, harmless, meaningless. Then they sank in. "Not my problem," I laughed once. A short, broken sound. "You must have misunderstood him." "I asked him to repeat himself," the doctor said quietly. He didn't change his answer. My chest felt hollow, like something had been ripped out and taken with it. Eric, my son. The kid I stayed up with when he had nightmares. The man I bailed out when his business collapsed. The same boy I handed the keys to his first car with shaking hands because I was proud. "That doesn't sound like him," I said, but my voice betrayed me. Dr. Miller hesitated. "Then I called your daughter, Melissa, my little girl. The one who used to fall asleep on my chest while I worked late. The one I paid college tuition for without ever asking for a thank you. And," I asked again, even though my gut already knew. "She listened," he said. "Then she hung up." No argument, no tears, no questions, just silence. The room seemed to tilt. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting cracks so I wouldn't have to feel the weight pressing down on my ribs. My children hadn't just failed to come. They'd refused. They let me die. Dr. Miller spoke again, softer now. "We tried several times. Neither of them came. Neither asked for updates." I turned my head away toward the rain-streaked window. My eyes burned, but I didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. A man learns when tears are earned. "I'm sorry, Walter," he said, using my first name. "You deserved better." Deserved. That word echoed like a cruel joke. "Can you give me a minute?" I asked, my voice flat. He nodded and stood, pausing at the door. "If you need anything." "I won't," I said. The door closed. The room went quiet except for the rain and the steady beep reminding me I was still alive. Still alive, after my own children decided I wasn't worth saving. If this part of the story hit close to home, stay with me. What I did next wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was something far more permanent. And it started with a decision made in that silent hospital room. The room stayed quiet long after Dr. Miller left. No footsteps. No voices. Just the rain and that damn monitor counting out seconds like it was daring me to quit. For the first time since the accident, the thought crept in slow and heavy. Maybe I should stop fighting. I closed my eyes. My chest ached with every breath, not just from the broken ribs but from something deeper. Eric's voice replayed in my head. Not my problem. Melissa's silence was even louder. I'd spent my entire adult life solving their problems. Eric's first failed business. The second one too. The credit cards I quietly paid off so his pride wouldn't take a hit. Melissa's tuition. Her rent. The temporary help that somehow lasted years. Every time they fell, I was there, steady as a wall. And when I was the one bleeding out, I was alone. My hand drifted to the bedside table. My watch sat there, scratched but still ticking. My wife's inscription on the back caught the light. "Walter, always stand back up. Clara." I swallowed hard. She would have been furious if she saw me lying there ready to give up. Furious in that quiet way she had, the kind that made you straighten your spine without her raising her voice. "You didn't raise a quitter," she used to say, "so don't become one." I opened my eyes. No, I wasn't done, not like this. Not on their terms. I'd survived worse than betrayal. I'd rebuilt from nothing before. And if Eric and Melissa thought my heart attack was their payday, they were about to learn something they'd forgotten. I wasn't weak. I reached for my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. One name sat there, untouched for years. Richard Cole, my lawyer, my oldest friend. The one man who'd seen me claw my way back when everyone else counted me out. My thumb hovered for a moment. Trust doesn't come easy after your own blood turns away. Then I pressed call. Walter, Richard answered, surprise sharp in his voice. I thought, I'm not dead, I said, but my kids seem to think I should be. There was a pause, then a low, dangerous chuckle. That bad, huh? They wouldn't come, I said. Hospital called, I almost didn't make it. The silence on the other end went cold. Say that again, Richard said slowly. I told him everything. Eric's words, Melissa hanging up. Every detail felt heavier saying it out loud, but it also burned something clean inside me. When I finished, Richard exhaled. They've already contacted an estate attorney. My grip tightened. What? They think you're finished, he said. They're moving fast, house, accounts, business shares. I stared at the ceiling, a strange calm washing over me. So that's what brought them running, not love, not fear, money. Good, I said. Richard laughed, sharp and approving. That doesn't sound like a man giving up. I'm not, I replied. I'm waking up. If you're still listening right now, stay with me. What I did next wasn't loud. It wasn't reckless. It was precise. And once I started, there was no turning back. By the next morning, the pain was still there, but something else had settled in its place. Clarity. When you spend your whole life fixing other people's messes, you don't realize how strong you've become until you finally stop cleaning up after them. Richard didn't waste time. Neither did I. First thing, he said over the phone, we cut off access. Cards, transfers, everything tied to your name. I looked at the IV in my arm, the thin plastic line feeding life back into me, and let out a slow breath. Do it. There was no hesitation in his voice. Once I flip the switch, they'll notice fast. They're already circling, I said. Let them feel it. I called the bank myself, spoke calmly, clearly, gave them every verification they needed. Years of running a company taught me one thing: authority isn't loud, it's certain. Effective immediately, I said. No secondary access for Eric Hayes or Melissa Hayes. No exceptions. The woman on the line hesitated. Sir, that will disable. I know exactly what it will do, I replied. A few keystrokes later, it was done. I ended the call and leaned back against the pillow. For the first time since waking up, I felt something close to relief. Not joy, not revenge, control. My phone buzzed less than 10 minutes later. Eric. I let it ring. If you've ever been pushed aside your whole life and finally decided to stand still and let others feel the weight of their own choices, tap like right now. You don't owe anyone your destruction. The phone buzzed again, then again. Melissa this time. I answered on the fourth call, my voice calm enough to scare myself. What did you do? Eric snapped the moment he heard me. No hello, no concern. Just anger. I protected what's mine, I said. You shut off the cards, he barked. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, I said quietly. I finally stopped pretending your problems were emergencies. Melissa jumped in, her voice sweet and strained. Dad, this isn't funny. We were worried about you. I almost laughed. Worried, I said. You couldn't stay on the phone long enough to hear if I lived. Silence. Then Eric again, louder now. You can't do this. We're your kids. I closed my eyes, feeling the steady beat of my heart under my ribs, still here, still strong. I was your father, I replied, when it mattered. The line exploded with shouting, threats, guilt, old excuses dressed up as urgency. I listened for a moment. Then I hung up. The room went quiet again, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt settled. And as I stared at the ceiling, one truth became impossible to ignore. They weren't angry because they loved me. They were angry because they were losing. And I was just getting started. The call ended, but the echo of their voices lingered in the room like smoke that refused to clear. My hand trembled slightly as I set the phone down, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. Cutting them off hadn't felt good the way I imagined justice might. It felt final, like closing a door you know you'll never open again. An hour later, Richard called back. "I didn't want to do this without telling you," he said, his voice steady, professional. "But they're already heading to the house. They're assuming they still belong there." I stared at the wall across from my bed, where sunlight sliced through the blinds in narrow bars. That house, the porch I fixed with my own hands, the backyard Clara loved, the place where my kids grew up believing it would always be there for them no matter what they did. "They don't," I said. "I figured you'd say that," Richard replied. "I've got a locksmith on standby." There was a pause, a long one. This was the line. Once crossed, there was no walking it back. "Change the locks," I said finally. "All of them." He didn't sound surprised. "What about their things?" I closed my eyes. "Eric's old gaming setup. Melissa's designer clothes hanging in closets she never paid for. All of it bought with money I earned while telling myself I was helping." "Put it outside," I said. "Carefully, but outside." When the call ended, I sat there listening to the distant sounds of the hospital, carts rolling, voices murmuring, life moving forward while something old inside me finally broke loose. My phone buzzed with a message not long after. A photo from Richard. Cardboard boxes lined up across my lawn. Plastic bins stacked near the driveway. Melissa's high heels poking out from one box like they were trying to escape. Eric's oversized television wrapped in a tarp that hadn't quite covered it all. Rain clouds hung low in the sky. I felt a tightening in my chest, not pain this time but memory. Christmas mornings. Birthday cakes. Their laughter echoing through that same front yard. And then the other memories followed. Eric laughing off another failed promise. Melissa rolling her eyes when I asked her to be responsible. Me always forgiving, always paying. My phone rang again. "Eric," I answered. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted over the sound of wind and rain. "Our stuff is on the lawn. You've lost your mind." "My mind is clearer than it's been in years," I said. Melissa's voice cut in, sharp and shaking. "You can't do this to us. It's raining. My clothes are not my responsibility," I replied calmly, "just like my life wasn't yours." "You're being cruel," she snapped. "People don't treat their children like this." I took a slow breath. "Parents don't get abandoned when they're dying." Silence. Then Eric again, low and threatening. "You're going to regret this." I almost smiled. I already regretted everything. This is me fixing it. I ended the call and set the phone down beside the bed. If you're still with me, take a second and comment what you think real consequences should look like. Not revenge, not shouting, just accountability. Outside that house, my children were standing in the rain, finally feeling what it was like to be locked out. And for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to let them back in. Because some lessons only stick when the door stays closed. By the time evening settled in, the hospital felt different. Quieter. Like it knew I was done being a patient. A nurse came in with discharge papers, her voice warm, almost proud. "Doctor says you're strong enough to leave tomorrow morning," she said. "You heal fast." I smiled faintly. "I've had a lot of practice." When she left, I sat there alone, staring at the empty bed across from me. That's when the final piece fell into place. Eric and Melissa were loud, messy, predictable. They fought with threats and panic. I didn't need to say another word to them. I needed to write one. I pulled a sheet of hospital stationery from the drawer and picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. Not once. Everything I needed to say had been building for years. I didn't write about anger. I didn't write about pain. I wrote about truth. About the night the doctor begged them to come. About the silence on the line. About how love isn't measured in bloodlines but in who shows up when it matters. I wrote that I forgave them. And then I wrote what forgiveness did not mean. It didn't mean reward. It didn't mean inheritance. It didn't mean access to the life they abandoned, every asset, every account. Every piece of the future they were counting on had already been redirected. Charities, medical funds, housing programs, places that would turn my lifetime of work into something that actually helped people. I folded the letter carefully, slid it into an envelope and wrote their names on the front. Eric and Melissa Hayes. I placed it right in the center of the pillow. That's when I stood up, slow and steady, grabbed my coat, and took one last look at the room where they thought they'd find me broken. They were already on their way. I knew that. People like them always come running when they realize the money's gone. They expected a weak-old man. They were about to find paper instead. Before I walked out, I paused at the door and looked back one last time. If you're still listening right now, stay with me. And if you believe that love without accountability destroys both sides, tap subscribe. The end of this story isn't loud, but it's unforgettable. I stepped into the hallway, the door closing softly behind me. And when my children arrived minutes later, breathless and furious, ready to argue, ready to threaten, all they found was an empty bed. And the letter that would change everything. They arrived in a storm. Eric first, face red, jaw tight. Melissa right behind him, eyes scanning the room like she could still catch me hiding somewhere. Nurses tried to stop them, but grief mixed with entitlement has a way of pushing through rules. "Where is he?" Eric demanded. No answer, just white sheets, flat pillows, silence. Melissa saw the envelope first. It sat dead center on the bed, untouched, impossible to miss. Her hands shook as she picked it up. Eric snatched it from her, tearing it open like it owed him something. They read, and with every line the color drained from their faces. The doctor's calls, the refusal, the silence. Then the part that mattered most. No house, no business, no accounts. Everything they had already spent in their heads was gone, redirected, donated, locked away from them forever. Melissa dropped to the chair, her breath hitching. "He can't do this." Eric reread the last paragraph twice, his lips moving, his confidence collapsing in real time. They hadn't lost a father that day. They'd lost an assumption. While they stood there unraveling, I was already miles away, sitting in a quiet cafe downtown. Sunlight poured through the window. The kind of light you forget exists when you spend years carrying other people's weight. Richard sat across from me, coffee steaming between us. "You really went through with it," he said softly. I nodded. I finally stopped lying to myself. Outside, families passed by. Laughter, ordinary life. The kind I once thought I needed to earn by sacrificing everything. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. I pulled my wallet out and looked at an old photo, Eric and Melissa as children, smiling, innocent, untouched by greed. I held it for a moment, then slipped it back inside. Some memories stay. Some responsibilities don't. If this story made you think about loyalty, family, or the quiet strength it takes to choose yourself after being abandoned, leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe that love should never come at the cost of your dignity, stay with me. Because sometimes the strongest ending is simply walking away alive.